All right, let's dive into something that's super personal to all of us, our tasting music. Today, we're going to unpack the hidden science that explains why the songs we absolutely loved a decade ago can feel so different to us now.
You know that feeling, right? That anthem you used to blast in the car suddenly comes on and, well, it just doesn't hit the same. So what's the deal? Are we just getting old, or is there something way more interesting happening inside our heads?
So first things first, let's just look at the pattern. It turns out most of us follow a pretty predictable path when it comes to our musical taste as we go through life.
And what's so wild is how neatly this maps onto our lives. When we're teens, we're all about the intensity and energy of rap and hip-hop. Then in our early 20s, it's all about pop music for parties and hanging out. But then, something starts to change. From our mid-20s on, we start leaning towards slower stuff. And for a lot of us, by the time we're over 40, we find ourselves drawn to the really complex worlds of classical music or even ghazals.
Okay, so this isn't random. It's not just about the birthdays piling up. There are some really deep psychological reasons behind this whole evolution. Let's start peeling back the layers.
So here's the first big idea. Your playlist is basically a mirror. It's a surprisingly accurate reflection of who you are and what you need at any given moment. The music we pick isn't just background noise, it's serving a deep, fundamental need.
And you can really see this in two main camps. On one side, you've got music for extroversion. This is all about something called arousal theory, which just means that extroverts need stuff from the outside world to feel energized. So for them, pop and hip-hop are like plugging in and charging their battery. But on the other side, you have music for reflection. This is tied to a personality trait called openness to experience. These folks aren't looking for a hype track. They're using complex music to work through their own thoughts and feelings. Classical music and ghazals are perfect for that.
And that brings us to the next big point. Because it's not just about what we're listening to. It's about how we're listening to it. The way we actually engage our brains with music is totally different depending on the genre.
Think of it this way. Pop and hip-hop are mostly made for passive listening. It's somatic. You feel it in your body. It's why you can dance to it, drive to it, or have a conversation over it. But classical music, that often demands active listening. It's a cognitive thing. It's built like a language, and if you don't know the grammar, you're going to get lost. You really have to focus.
And this is exactly why that kind of active listening can feel so powerful. When your brain is completely focused on decoding the music, the notes, the rhythm, all of it, it literally doesn't have the bandwidth to worry about your to-do list. That intense focus is a type of meditation, a way to connect with your inner self.
Okay, so if one type of music is for the body and the other is for the mind, what is it in the actual sound waves that's causing this difference? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how the music is actually built. So check this out. First major difference. Pop music is built on scales. A scale is basically like a simple ladder of notes. Your brain sees the pattern, solves it almost instantly, and boom, you get a nice little hit of dopamine, easy and satisfying. But a classical raga? That's not a ladder. It's an entire atmosphere. It has a mood, a personality. Your brain can't just solve it. It has to go on a journey with it. And that's what puts you into that deep focused state we call flow. The next piece of the puzzle is in the notes themselves. This is wild. Pop music uses these fixed, distinct notes. It jumps from one to the next like you're flipping a light switch. Click, click, click. It's clean, it's precise, and it's processed by the logical part of your brain. Classical music, though, uses microtones. It slides between the notes. This technique is called mindang, and that sliding sound physically sounds like a human voice crying or sighing. It completely bypasses your logical brain and hits you right in the emotional core. And finally, we've got rhythm. Hip-hop is king of the loop. That simple, hypnotic 4-count beat is so predictable that it frees up your brain to focus on other things, like lyrics or dancing or just talking to your friends. But classical music often uses these long, really complex time cycles called Tala. The whole point is to build up this incredible tension all the way through the cycle, waiting for it to finally resolve back on the very first beat, the psalm. When that beat lands, you get this massive, cathartic release. It's this whole journey of tension and relief in every cycle.
So, just to sum up all that technical stuff, pop and hip-hop are built to give you a quick dopamine hit. They use simple ladders, clean switches, and hypnotic loops. Classical music, on the other hand, is trying to guide you into a state of meditative flow. It does that with complex atmospheres, emotional slides, and these long, cathartic cycles. They're literally two different technologies designed for two totally different experiences.
So now that we get the mechanics, let's sim back out and see how this all plays out in the real world.
Why do we invest our time and energy so differently in these two kinds of music throughout our lives?
Well, it really just comes down to a return on investment. Pop music is brilliant because it gives you a huge, immediate reward for almost zero effort. You turn it on, you instantly feel good. Done. But classical music, man, that demands a huge investment. You actually have to spend months, even years, learning its language to really feel that deep, delayed payoff. And if you're a teenager with a dopamine-driven brain, which one are you going to pick? It's a no-brainer.
And this lines up perfectly with what we need from music at different points in our lives. Between, say, 15 and 30, we're living in the age of the body and of society. Music is a social tool. It's for the party, it's for the car ride with friends, it's for connection. But after 40, a lot of us enter the age of the mind and spirit. Music's job changes. It's not a public performance anymore. It becomes a private journey for thinking and reflection.
You know, maybe the simplest way to think about all this is with an analogy. Pop and hip-hop are like fast food. They're engineered to be delicious and instantly satisfying. Classical music? That's like a home-cooked feast. It takes a lot more time, a lot more effort, but the nourishment you get from it is on a whole other level.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to think about. We spend years and years teaching kids language so they can structure and express their thoughts. But maybe, just maybe, we're overlooking another essential language, the language of music. A language that could give us the tools to understand and navigate the much trickier world of our own emotions. What do you think?